Good to see you too. You know who's going to do kind of a flora and fauna plate? This is Rod Drake.
This is the,
Oh man, they're taking it to a whole different level here. This was nothing like this one.
and then Jackson himself would come up for 2 weeks. Oh. And bring his horse.
Right.
And cook over an open fire and just camp out with the girls. Yeah. So he came back here. He loved this.
That's great.
When we came back in 1965 and camped here, and it cemented the idea that we would make this now a summer place that we came for summers. We used to go down to Nag's Head, which was because my dad was a southerner, my mother was a northerner, and I got bitten very badly by a spider and got very sick. And Mom leveraged that to change the summer place to up here. And then we went on quite a quest to find property. Dot Henry wouldn't sell us this, she still had it. And so we talked to Old Man Pitt. He had a beautiful hill. Awesome. We talked to the guy who owned the Clough Farm. It started with a K.
We just read that.
Yeah. And he
Carlisle.
had...
But
No, before Carlisle. And he had on the other side of Jackson Hill a beautiful meadow that looked out over the valley, but he wouldn't sell to us. And so finally, Mr. Pitt, who must have been like 80 at the time, hiked us up Turner Hill, and we're all huffing and puffing, and he's just like this, to show us the Cafferland property.
We knew him.
And so we bought property from the Cafferlands and built a cabin there.
Now this would have been Bill's brother, Bob?
Bill's brother, Bob.
Okay.
Exactly.
The twin brother.
Yeah.
Right.
So you built a cabin up there.
Uh-huh.
And what did you know about this place? Did you ever come down here to this?
Well, right, we camped on the side of the hill.
Okay.
I'd love to see if we could get back there.
Yeah.
In 1965, and then walked. We would walk to Porter's General Store along the highway here.
Did you come this way over the bridge?
Over the bridge. This bridge was fine. We drove. You drove over this bridge.
I know that.
Yeah. We would drive over the bridge, but Mom, you had to hike, and so we would hike to Porter's General Store. And I think I was 8 years old at the time. I was miserable. I remember a relative coming to visit. And right about here, my mother left me because I was so slow. And she goes, "We have to get back to camp because," and I can't remember who this is. And as she drove, I'm like walking like this along. It's a big field, right? We would walk that way to get to the camp back over there. And she stops. She goes, "Young lady, would you like a ride?" And I'm like, No. She goes, "No, really, I who else is going to be driving in the field?" And so I trudged on, and she was a teacher, and she thought that was very good of me that I didn't accept a ride from a stranger. So
But was the house here?
Yeah, the house was here, the barn was here, and then we would come visit Dot Henry, every summer until she moved.
Intact, Julie?
Yeah, she lived here with her son Tom, and
Imagine how fast that went down.
I heard it had help.
it was taken down.
That's what I
both
hear.
were taken down. Yeah.
They're going to be judged for that.
It didn't make us happy.
Yeah.
And Mom tried to buy this place.
Did you?
Yeah.
So you have memory of what we're going to see here.
I do. We would ride back here.
Your horses.
Yeah, we ride your horses.
Yeah.
I think this is actually, I think we probably got Willoughby back here on occasion.
So this was pretty much open at the time.
Yeah, this was a mowed, tended field. And the road used to go along the field along the side.
The road that went over to Spring Creek?
No,
Road?
just a little, the tractor access.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so when we camped on the hill right there, you You could get it that way, but for some reason we always walked this way and then back.
So behind the barn. So you would come access this area behind the barn.
It wasn't behind the barn. It was sort of midway between the barn and those trees was where we camped the summer of '65. Right. Not more. Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. I remember it being more like this than like this, but obviously it was at an angle. And yeah, so you could stand here and see the barn and then look over and see the house.
It sounded like it was awesome.
Yeah, when we camped, we didn't spend a lot of time in the barn.
And where did you camp?
We arrive in 1965. It's a snow rain, and it's August. And we have a Rambler, and it's 5 of us trying to pitch this tent for the first time. And it's night.
Your mother was a warrior.
She was a warrior. That's a perfect expression for her. She was a warrior. And she's like, we're going to find the place where I camped with my dad.
Oh my gosh.
And so we scoured the hillside, and actually the whole summer we never found it. Now, so I have this, you know, certainly the wonderful fire pit that my dad built we'd be able to find in our new spot. But yeah, so it was, you know, we drove the Rambler this way, and basically as far as that poor car would go before we got stuck, and that's where we set up camp.
So somewhere on this hill here?
No. So we drove up here. So you're gonna, this is, and you see where those trees are?
Oh, yeah.
That's where we
way
set
up.
up.
Okay, got it.
We set up camp in the woods over there.
Good.
So you drove along and then,
So not on this particular property.
not here. No,
It might have been owned by the Henrys, right?
and this was all owned by the Henrys, by the Mortons, excuse me. I refer to her as Dot Henry, that's her maiden name.
Okay.
But Dot Morton, who was a neighbor of the Putmans. And when we were here, this is how you entered. Like into a mudroom and into the kitchen, as I recall. I am 8 years old, mind you, so this is all.
Remember where we were? And John dove in and got all the doorknobs and stuff like that?
You know, it's a tiny footprint.
Yeah.
You think what a tiny house this was.
It is something. The last time I came, you could brush, you get half of the view. Huge undertaking. Yeah, with all the trees and everything. Yeah, we measured.
So I would think here's 2 entrances right here coming out, and a stair.
You're right.
And here's the stair. So here's the stair, and I suspect these are.
I did the math, and Mom wasn't that old when Happy Days was sold. And I gotta think she must have been devastated.
Oh my gosh.
What kind of horse was it?
Dapple Gray Hunter,
Ooh.
as she described Happy Days. And she would let Happy Days just go anywhere. And so they'd be riding up over Blue Eye or up over Eldred Hill to come
She just
to
went along
camp
for the
here.
ride, huh?
And there'd be a field with apple trees, and she just she didn't even have his reins. Let him go get the apples, and her dad was like,
Your mom.
"No equestrian should be that way with it, or he'd scold her." Yeah, he didn't. Yeah. But
So what was the route? He had the farm over off of what is now 380 and outside of Lakewood, and then would your mother come up with him and then what?
so they'd ride to someone's house that I should remember. I think one of the caretakers' place in Sugar Grove. Spend the night, and then the second leg would take them up over Eldred Hill. Now, I'm not sure what happened between Sugar Grove and that. And so we would ride up over Eldred Hill, and she would talk about one night, or during a thunderstorm, coming down Eldred Hill, and the lightning hitting the electric line there just here, and how just incredibly terrifying it was. So she became phobic about lightning, and think I'm adopting that phobia now. But yeah, she and her dad would just ride the horses. 2-day trip from Jamestown.
And then when they came here, would they camp here then?
Yeah, I mean, that's where Jackson camped. When I talk about the pancakes,
Yeah.
how he would come, and he's the only person that I ever know who could do perfect pancakes over an open fire. And then so my dad and I would get up early about every 3 or 4 years and be like, we're going to do those pancakes. I talked about this in Buffalo and again. And our pancakes were just a miserable mess. And so that's that kind of mythic pancake story about Robert Jackson. And that took place right there.
Do you have any recollections coming into this house?
Very vague. I mean, my recollection is we came in here and there was like a mudroom and a kitchen and stairs to the basement, but I sort of conflated, I think, with the house that I grew up in, because I remember the stairs over there. It appears like that they were here. But yeah, we didn't come into the house much. It was, we were camping and we felt like we were imposing on Dot, so we didn't come in.
Did you do anything with the broken straw? Did you swim? Did you fish? Did you do things?
Yeah, oh yeah, that was the swimming hole, was right there by the bridge. The deep spot, or was the deep spot. So we did that a lot. That summer, in particular.
So there's a song, The Summer of 65. This is it, huh?
No, I guess it was, summer of 65. That makes sense. I was 7, turning 8.
Peggy, you are the best dressed person to come out here ever. So if you want to have an ad in the article, appearing the best dressed with Peggy Morgan.
Nice pair of
lightweight khakis, and they're still sitting on my kitchen table.
Right along there is a big deep gully. So if you walk straight out across here, there's a logging trail that goes pretty much straight up the hill, and then you probably come close to this point here. And there's a bunch of rocks out there. Devil's Kitchen is there. That's the most famous cave. And actually, if you go down inside of it, it actually, somebody had painted, oh my goodness, probably in the 40s or 50s, Devil's Kitchen in there. And at one time they used to have a still, a moonshine still.
That's what Jackson talked about.
Okay, really?
So Mom, yeah, because he would talk about how the moonshiners would store their moonshine
Oh
in
my
there
God.
as they brought it in. Maybe the still, but we tried to find them from the other side of Jackson Hill. In other
Okay.
words, by Clough Farm, we went up to the top, right
Okay.
where you could go back down or turn right.
Okay.
And you know the beautiful pine. The house that has the beautiful pine grove. That's where we would ride the Putman's horses a lot.
Okay.
So we kind of went down that way.
Okay. If you go out to where the road makes the sharp right, and then you can kind of go straight.
No,
and
wait,
there-
we're approaching
Jackson
up
Hill Road.
Jackson Hill.
all the way up, and you go up to the top.
Yeah, and then where it takes
you
the
go,
sharp right along
it
the
makes
ridge.
a sharp right. If you go straight, do
Yep.
not make that right.
Keep
go
going down.
over,
Yep.
come back up,
Yep.
and then you start down again.
Yeah.
And then the road
Right.
curves
Yes.
again, and it's really not very well maintained or anything like that. But there's an estate or a homestead that used to be on that corner
Well,
there.
that was a Jackson.
Oh, okay.
That was like.
And that just fell
Aunt-
down recently.
Yeah, that was Aunt somebody, and
Okay.
she'd go up in October and come back down in April.
Maybe-
Yes, and so I've hiked back behind there too.
Now, there's always been, and I don't know what it actually was. There was some type of a line, maybe a fence line or something that used to run through there. And if you walk right along it, and it takes you right along that hillside, probably maybe a quarter mile past where the house is, then you can start to see the big rocks. And if you drop down over there,
Mom was in the wrong place.
yeah, if you drop down over there, then, and I'm not real good at coming from that direction. What we used to do here as kids is, you know, I'm really good in the woods, have a great sense of direction. So we'd start walking up there, and then all the parents would get in one of the pickup trucks, and the littler kids, and they would drive up there, park, And then by the time they drove up there, we had already started to find the cave. So I'm real good at finding them from walking up this way. And we would yell, and they would just come over the hill where we were. Okay.
So she and a friend, and each of them had a horse, and then her father, Justice Jackson, would hire a guy to pitch a tent a little farther up the hill, and he'd keep an eye on these two girls, and it was relatives in the house.
Okay.
And they'd ride the horses over from Jamestown.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Stop in Sugar Grove, then second
Okay.
up over Eldred Hill.
Okay.
So we came back in '65. I was 8 years old, and I've already been through the whole colorful story and pitched this tent, and then the next year we start shopping for land, and ended up buying on top of Turner Hill.
The barn and the house were in fantastic shape then.
They were in good shape. So Dot and Tom Morton, Dot and her son Tom Morton lived here, and they're the ones who sold to Frost.
Oh, I don't know
And
that.
Frost sold to somebody who sold to McChesney, or maybe Frost. So Frost wanted to do a ski resort here.
I remember talk about
It's either
that.
golf or ski. It seems to be everybody schemes for this one.
Right.
And so the place was not in great shape. And I remember something about not even really going in the barn. Like the barn wasn't in use, and it was sort of falling down, and a little bit dangerous even at that point.
It is a western tier township of the county, and bounded north by Columbus, east by Pittsfield, south by Eldred, and west by parts of Crawford County and Erie County. Broken Straw and Spring Creek are principally streams in the town, and the surface is pleasantly diversified by hill and dale, and the soil's fertile and excellent. Early settlements, the first settlement made present boundary lines was on Broken Straw south of State Road by Andrew Evers and Elijah Jackson. These two men came to this wilderness together the 10th day of November 1997 and built the first log cabin in the vicinity.
1797.
And very few rods nearly north of the present dwelling house of William M. Jackson. They came from what was called Union Mills, now Union City. Elijah settled on the farm now owned and occupied by his son William, on a stretch whose life appears later in the pages of this book. Yeah, as a kid, and remember the Mortons and back in the old days, when I was a kid, they had what they called a soil bank. And that was a thing through the state, not to plant crops.
Right.
But you had to mow those fields where you would have planted crops.
And the Cafferlands did that too.
And so you had to mow these fields, and then they'd fly over in an airplane on a certain date to make and take pictures to prove that you mowed it. And the Mortons asked my dad if we would do that for them because they didn't have a tractor. So as a kid, that was a huge field, and it took me days to do it. And we used to go through the barn. Everything was vacant when I was over there. Nobody was living there. And what time period? Give me a year.
Yeah, right.
60s, early 60s.
So Dot is living there at that time.
Yeah, well,
Dot
maybe
and
she
Tom.
was. I just remember Bill and Dot. One time we had put hay in. This is in the 60s. We're teenagers. And after you get done putting hay in, you'd swim. And we would swim in a hole in front of the higher farm, which is, you know which one that is. And it was a Saturday, and we were swimming down there, and we seemed like an awful lot of fishermen. And they're all going toward the Morton farm. And being kids, we didn't pay any attention. Well, then the next day, Sunday, we found out that there was a raid at Morton's. And what they were doing is having cockfights in the barn. And all these people had come, and they thought they'd fish for a while, apparently, before the cockfights started. And the state police blocked off the drive.
Yeah.
They went back and arrested everybody. But we went over as kids because we wanted to see what it looked like. And they had a ring built, and they had bleachers around the ring, and
This made national news.
Did it?
I remember Mom reading it and just being
Is this the
horrified.
chicken
The cock-
fights?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the cockfights were in the Morton farm.
Yeah, downstairs in the.
So before McChesney bought it.
I think so. At the time, there was a guy by the name of Fost.
Yes, Fost. Oh, I said Frost.
Mm.
I thought it was Frost, but Fost bought it before McChesney
Yeah.
from Dot.
At that time, I was told that. My father told me this, and I don't know if it's true. That Ford Motor Company came and looked at the farm, and they were interested in putting in a lodge with a ski slope in the back.
That's right.
Well, they bailed, and then Fost bought it, and that was their plan to put
Dude,
this.
yes, I know he had that.
And they even had a little bulldozer sat over there for years and years and years in the barn, and they
Is
never
this
used
size
it.
okay for you?
Morton barn, which was really the Jackson barn,
Well, it
right?
was behind the house.
Behind the house, but that barn which we just were at was the location for cockfights.
Yes.
The other thing that always amazed me, and I don't know if this is true, they could have just been Josh and a stupid kid. But out behind the barn, there's a big divot in the ground. You could probably put a car in it. And when I first saw it, I thought somebody must have been digging for gravel. But somebody told me a meteor hit there before my time and left that big divot. And it's out behind the barn someplace. It's probably all grown up now. I always thought, wouldn't we need to take a metal detector and just see if there's any metal in the bottom of it?
Let's remember that Mercyhurst is going to